So we're going to talk in this session, it's about how to upgrade subject areas, courses, to the criteria that you apply to ensure your courses are at the right level that you want them at, or if you're introducing a new course. So, of course, the first issue is to look at benchmarking, so to compare what you have in your course to other similar countries or countries that you might want to compare yourself with. So you have to select. Usually it's about 3 or 4. There's a process. I'll go through each of these points, by the way, in more detail. Sorry, I've got an aeroplane going over the top of my house at the moment, if you can hear that. So there's a process, and I'll go through that. And then you review the material. You look for rigor using current research. Relevance, whether the purpose and need, you need to check whether the courses are still relevant. They're still meeting the purpose that they were intended for and a need. Set some agreed principles that you want to make sure all your courses comply with. Then there's a need to actually get your data on the cohort, that the groups of students that have been completing grade 12 over the last number of years. What do we know about the diversity of those learners, their needs and their capabilities? What are their interests? And then there's the leveling of courses, the range that you would want. Do you want a general course, an intermediate course, and an advanced course? Then there's the workforce analysis. That's what, I guess, the teacher's capabilities. We talked about this earlier. If you're introducing new courses or changing courses and making them, differentiating them, are your teachers equipped to teach at those different levels? And therefore, professional learning and workforce planning and recruitment is needed. We talked about maybe some courses you might have to bring in people from different industries, and that would mean recruiting them and training them. Okay, so we'll go through each of these. So with benchmarking is the selection. Usually you select 3 or 4 countries to compare your current subject areas against. So you mightn't choose all of your subjects, and it doesn't mean that the same 3 or 4 countries for each subject area. For example, for your national language, you might want to look at, Estonia. You might want to look at France, and you might want to look at Canada, one of the Canadian provinces. But for mathematics, you might want to look at Singapore. You might want to look at Australia, or you might want to look at Germany, or not Germany so much, Ireland, for example. So in other words, you're choosing countries to benchmark against, countries that you think you can compare against, and usually it's countries that are better at performing than your country in international, or they're recognised in those professional subject areas as being high quality. As I said, one that's similar to you and typically outperforms your country. 2 others that from English-speaking countries, these countries that outperform your country, but they may be seen as valuable in that subject area. The process is to compare the subject matter taught, what is taught, and if they've got differentiated levels, that's what you'd be looking for. Where does your content align? Does it fit mostly within the general or in the higher or intermediate courses that they have. So you're trying to match and look for gaps, things that are taught by them that you don't teach, and similarities in the expectations, what we call the demand. So in other words, the learning objectives, the outcomes, what are your students expected to be able to do and to know at the end of those courses? How does that compare with other countries, their curriculum in the same subject areas? Then part of the review, apart from doing the benchmarking, is for each of your course, what does the academic literature say about the knowledge, skills, understanding to be taught? So, for example, in your mathematics courses, what is the current view about the teaching of mathematics in senior years of school? What do we expect young people to learn about and learn to be able to do? So you're looking for what the literature says in mathematics, in history, in learning the native language, the national language. What are the what's the contemporary literature say about what has to be taught, and the teaching practice related to that? Relevance. So each subject area, is the subject matter out of date? It's no longer relevant. So really what it means is you have to have a team to go through each of the courses and ask themselves, is this content that we're teaching still relevant? If so, to what degree? Is it essential, or is it we've included it and because we've always included? So that might give you the opportunity to exclude some content because it's no longer relevant. There doesn't seem to be a purpose to continue to teach it. How does it contribute to further learning or prepare the student for life, further study and work? So given the 2 years you have with these students, you want to make sure you make the most and that they leave with in-depth knowledge, skills and understanding, and therefore anything that's not relevant or no longer relevant should be excluded. For each course and subject area, to what extent does the subject align with your principles? For example, they might be equity. I'm just choosing some examples. Does it meet the needs of students it is intended? Is this right for this group? Is it too challenging? Is it too difficult? Are you going to disengage students? Is the content something that they have no prior insight into, and it would be difficult for them to get that? So it's really checking to see the alignment between the principles that you've agreed on. I've used equity as an example. Flexibility might be another. Is it designed for a specific learner group? Have we enabled the students taking this course? Have we designed courses that are right for this particular group of students in this cohort? So you're doing this review of your course content to identify what, if it's rigorous, it stays. If it's relevant, it stays. If it meets your principles, it stays. If it doesn't, then that gives you the chance to exclude some of the existing content. So the content cohort analysis, you have a diversity of learners. And so that means we need to use various data sets, maybe through surveying students, looking at past graduation data, surveying teachers. What is the nature of your student group now? Does it range from students that really still haven't acquired some of the fundamentals from basic education, up to students that are highly gifted and talented and effectively could be doing university courses? They're that advanced. So what's the data tell you? And of course, that means the nature of the learners now undertaking the courses. You could look at the results in the past. If it looks like you've had a lot of students failing, then that means you've set the expectations higher than what the group actually is capable of. And maybe the courses, therefore, are not matched to the learners, and there needs to be some differentiation and leveling. Look for the major cohort groups, those that are still consolidating basic skills, those that are preparing for vocational training after school, those that are exploring their options, those that clearly are making their way towards university, higher education. So make sure that you really define each of those groups. Assess the extent to which each current subject area meets one, all, or some, or none of these groups. So in other words, does a current maths course you offer, which group is this directed towards, or which groups? Are there courses that really all students do, but they're really only one group in this out of the cohort is actually privileged, and the course is really geared towards? So it's really making sure that you analyze each course to see who is it meant for, and if there are big gaps and problems with it, other groups not really being able to access it. Their results have shown that your survey data says that some students find these too challenging. That's when you have to construct new courses and use your benchmark information to help you do that, looking at what other countries do. Out of interest, consulting with the students. We talked about electives, so talk to past, present, and maybe those that are in early years of in the say grades 7, 8. What are the areas that they really love and are interested in? Those that have already left the schooling system, ask them about what courses they would have liked to have done. Or they've electives that they've done that they found very engaging. And the current group, what if they had a choice for additional electives, what would they choose, for example? And get them to rate them as the most moderate and least interested, and why. And this can help you determine if you were going to set some electives and some new ones, what would they be? And you'd be fairly confident that students would actually select them. Okay, and the next is actually leveling the courses. So from here, a general course really has to be a transition from basic education subjects. The subject matter has to be relevant for life and work and for basic access to university. So it hasn't necessarily mean the child would go to university, but they would need, doing a general course, you think they would have to have some communication skills that are greater than what they acquired in basic education. The intermediate course, this subject matter enhances knowledge and skills that they've already acquired in basic education, and it's generally relevant for different tertiary courses for accessing humanities or languages, mathematics, and sciences. So intermediate courses tend to be at a more demanding level, and it's geared towards humanities, languages, and mathematics and science courses at university, not necessarily pure maths, for example, or to follow a science degree, but it might be, for example, a nursing. You might want to do a nursing degree or diploma, and so it would be the sciences content that you would need for that, rather than a general science, natural science course. For the advanced level, it's subject matter that extends students' knowledge and skills that they've already acquired in basic education, and which has a direct correlation with high-level tertiary courses, engineering, medicine, law, the kind of language skills, science knowledge, mathematical knowledge that you would need to be able to do the high-demand, high-level courses. In a number of countries, students actually, they might do both the immediate and the advanced. I think I mentioned this before. They do the immediate course, and then they might have an extension of that. It might be called extension rather than advanced. And they might do that outside of the school hours. They might do that, an hour before school starts, or usually that's when these courses are offered, if not during the school day. In terms of workforce analysis, developing the teacher profile, what are their qualifications that you have in the system now? You might be surprised. You might find that there are teachers who have teaching qualifications that also worked in industry and have qualifications in other fields. And hence they may be able to be redeployed into some other new subject areas. What's their subject area expertise and experience? What's the profile of your current teachers? What are the gaps in terms of their subject matter knowledge in their existing subjects, plus when you make changes, what are going to be the new content that they have to learn? Their pedagogical skills, and of course this might mean if you've got new subjects, bringing in new people, excuse me, and professional learning, workforce planning and recruitment, training courses that you need to put in place, planning for those, redeployment, retraining of teachers into new courses, new subject areas, or from other forms of employment into teaching, recruiting and training. So I'm just going to go out of stop sharing and see if there are any questions, Irina, or clarifications that people need.
There was one question asking to explain more in detail the term rigor, because we have that rigorous curriculum, which is a bit different. The meaning is a bit different probably from what is on the slide. So can you just explain these terms? Thank you.
Yeah. So rigor can mean, in some contexts, rigor can mean hard, difficult, very challenging, or it could mean that whatever you include can be defended. It means it's proven. It's not. It's got evidence base. So in other words, when you look at a subject area, if somebody was to ask you, why is that knowledge being taught, or why is that skill being taught, you can say the research says, the evidence says, or you can say in Singapore students are the highest performers in mathematics, and they've shown that in their mathematics course that teaching this content, which might be statistics, a particular aspect of statistics, that it needs to be taught at this level, and it's proven that students can learn it, and it's valuable for later career in particular careers. So in other words, it's not that it's hard, it's that it actually can be justified. You're not just putting something in there because you've always taught it, or it's not in there because teachers like teaching it. It's actually there. It can be defended that it's in there because it's proven in academic literature that students need this, or that other countries are teaching it and have proven that their students are high performers as a result.
I have no more questions. I don't know whether the colleagues have any. Not now, probably. Oh, there is one.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Maybe one question about the selection. When we are, for example, analyzing some situation in different countries and in different curriculum, we can analyze different subjects. For example, what is good in mathematics, and that we would like, it's interesting, and we would like to have these high achievements, etc. But another thing is alignment, because all curriculum is connected in every country. So sometimes when you see in every subject separate, we can just find really nice examples, but how we can see all in one, because curriculum is one. So we can't put everything what we would like to do.
Yes, that's a good point. That's why it's important not just to compare yourself with one country. That's why it's 3 or 4, so that you can look for what's the commonality with these high-performing or higher-performing countries. And it doesn't mean they have to be, the top 3 countries in the world. It's politically smart not to choose countries that are lower performing than you in PISA, for example. It just, if I was a journalist, I'd be saying, oh, I see, we want our students to perform poorly. We don't want them to actually we don't want our education to aspire to be the best in the world. So it's important to choose. I'll just check, Irina, in your country, do you have like professional associations, like, the Maths Association of Teachers and academic?
We do. Yeah, yeah. And we have some people from associations here present today.
Yeah. So with those people, I would be surprised if you didn't say to them, for example, the history teachers, tell me, what are the 3 countries where history is really taught very well? It's very highly regarded. When you go to conferences, these are the academics from these areas, or the curriculum from these areas are seen as being the leaders. The same in every subject area. They would know who are the highly respected, highly regarded. So that's a common way to do it. Another way, of course, is just to choose 3 countries and compare all their curricula. But I'm not going to tell you which option to take there, but I think your subject area people might say, well, why did you choose that country? Because, it's, yes, it might perform well in maths and science, but in history, its curriculum is seen as something from, a previous century, not contemporary and not the best practice. So I would tend to favour, using the professional associations to help you identify which countries. And of course, logistically, you've got to be able to get their curriculum. You've got to be able to interpret it. So there's some kind of challenges there. That's why I thought, you know, there's enough strong demand, I gather, of English in your country to be able to look at English curriculum, language curriculum. So you probably make use at least of some of those. Okay, are there any other questions? Teresa? Yeah.
Yeah, yes, thank you. I just have a remark that I personally like very much the point that after choosing validated and relevant subjects, it's very important, as you stressed, to have in mind principles. Principles which the country is agreed upon, and in the law on education, since this year, we have one more general principle that which is inclusion. So, and I just wanted to express my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's good, Teresa. That's right. So what we sometimes say here in curriculum is you have to put a lens over when you're looking at the content. So you put a lens, so you put an inclusion lens. So you look at the content and so is it inclusive or is it actually excluding some groups? Or what are the strategies that we can use to make sure that it's more inclusive? If we're looking at flexibility, we put that lens over. Does this allow flexibility? Is there some opportunity to vary it, the teacher to vary it, for the student to follow a different options? And, you know, maybe within a history course, they don't have to learn, all the students don't have to learn exactly the same content. They could learn a core within history, but there might be some, so it's, Irina, it's a way of having options or electives within a subject. So in other words, you have, let's say in ancient history, everyone learns about the beginning of civilization and the fundamentals of that, you know, in Europe and in other parts of the world. But then students might be able to select whether they'll specialize in Greek history or ancient history or Roman history. So in other words, giving students electives, but within what even could be a mandatory subject. So it's just another way of giving agency without, you know, it's not full agency, but it's choice, it's options. Yeah. Okay, any other questions before we go to workshop? We are ahead of time, which is good because it does mean people can have longer than what they've had in their workshop and when we report back. So that's useful. If there aren't any more questions, I'll put up the workshop slide and just take people through that. Sorry, I'll just go through. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm asking you to do is to consider, well, which countries, and Irina was saying there are people from the professional associations and academics who, and there would be teachers that are members of those who might be able to, you know, they may not be able to think of all four or three, but may have a country in mind that they think would be worth benchmarking Lithuania's curriculum against. What would they be in which areas? What's your view regarding the diversity of learners within the current cohorts that are in secondary now? What do we know about the young people in grades 11 and 12 today? Is each group currently catered for, or only some or one? Do we know that there are some students that really have difficulty engaging with grade 11 and 12 because the subjects really are pitched too high? When I say pitched, I mean the expectations, the content is too difficult for them. They haven't got the underlying knowledge and skills. What levels would you consider including in your current curriculum structure, and for which subject areas? We talked about mandatory and core earlier, or for all. So, for example, would it be possible to have a basic general music course and an advanced course? In mathematics, would you think it's appropriate to have 3 levels, different levels? In history, should there be 2 levels? So any subject, by the way, can split itself into 2 levels. It's just whether you think the you have the capacity with your teachers, and also whether the interest would be there to and the logistics around this in a school. And as we mentioned very early on in today, what professions outside of teaching might provide potentially new teaching recruits? So in other words, who might we bring into teaching that now, or who should the government be looking for? I can tell you when I was responsible for public schools in Sydney, I would visit schools and I would be talking to teachers, some that were just newly appointed, and they might have been 40, 50 years of age. And what had happened is they'd left their profession and come into teaching their profession that they'd done most of their life, their career, and came into teaching. And there were 2 reasons for that. One is one was that they always wanted to be a teacher, and they never really, their parents directed them towards one profession, and they did that. But ultimately, when they were established enough in life and they really were unhappy with what they were working in, they decided they wanted to do what they always wanted to do, and that was to be a teacher. For others, their circumstances changed. For some women, I met some scientists, women that were working in the atomic science, our atomic science unit. We've got we've got a uranium and atomic center, and there were science teachers, women who were in there, who left, they'd taken maternity leave, they had children, they were raising their children. The demands for science were too difficult to actually attend work on that basis and have the holiday. They wanted to have the holidays with their students and their children. And so they became science teachers, or they found new science subjects. So don't be surprised that there are people out there that actually might make the change if you can find the opportunity for them. Last time, I think we started with you, Loretta, so we won't start with you again.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We had a great discussion in our expert group because we have almost all representative for our group except students. Oh, but sometimes we feel as students as well. So the four questions. First one was related with country, and we tried to find out. Again, we were back on the reminding to ourselves that it's so important, unique national characteristics. So the first criteria would be to recognize ourselves in others. So we understand that we are a small country, and we understand that we are a little bit Nordic country. Also, we understand that there are some difficulties in communication. Even a big country such as Australia might be similar on school culture, some traits as Lithuanian schools, and more clear for us because we have possibility to read the representative materials from those in English. For example, they were mentioned some small countries as Slovenia or also Poland or other, but we do not have, or Romania, Bulgaria, but we do not have a possibility to access the content in English. And it is a trouble. So we were looking for unique model, and we are ready to get the best things from different countries, especially Estonia as leaders. Also, we are interested in Holland, Belgium, Latvian as well. And here we found out the challenge. We recognized ourselves a little bit similar to Finland, but we see the lack of possibility to keep these changes permanent. We do not have so much patience in seeking result as Finland. We are hurried to start new things. We have a passion to do some. We are interested in innovations, but sometimes we start and then somewhere we cut. So we found out that challenges. The second question about diversity of students, we were talking from the teacher's perspective. The teachers see students as those who want to learn and who has lack of motivation to learn. Scientists suggest us to keep attention on the challenge, how to develop their self-direction and autonomy. And we found out that this ability, these characteristics we need in all levels. The autonomy in decisions making at school level, at institutional level, and so on. Also, we empowered the parent role in choosing a subject or pathway for further career. And also we see that this autonomy of the student must be supported by school. So we how to say, we went on the third question, and we found out that teacher role and authority is the important and core characteristics, because sometimes students choose the easier subject, easy way to finish, to get the diploma and finish the school as a boring thing, and again challenge of autonomy. And the fourth question about about specialists who could support and who could be the example of good practices. We found out the good experience of some countries, and also in Lithuania, its collaboration with banks authorities, with the military, with architects, with the designers. And we found out that it's very important to make the picture of the professional specialist who would be a shining leader and with many good traits. So we have also good best practices. Our best practices in Lithuania is a project Renkuosi mokytis. It's mokyti, sorry. I choose to teach. I don't know how exactly to translate that. When when students from different areas, they take challenge to teach at school. So it's possibility to involve their experience and combine it to the life at school.
Okay, excellent, Loretta. Thank you again, and thank you for your group's work. That's great. Let's say group 2. Where's group 2?
I am group 2.
Andres, hi, good to see you again.
I start to share my notes. So at first we have chosen some of countries. Country number 1 is Slovenia, and we have chosen this country because of social demographic criteria. Number 2 is Poland. It's because of our historical tradition. Number 3, such countries as Poland, Finland, Estonia, we have chosen for the very good results in PISA.
PISA. Yeah.
PISA. Yes, PISA. Research, how to say, tests, research, and that they made very good evaluation from in this point of view, and good practice from Finland. In our mind, the second questions, it's very good that pupils could choose a lot of subjects, and it's very good that would be core courses, and some of them would be wide courses. So with a bigger to choose levels. That wide problems in this point of view. That a lot of subjects make too difficult to choose which one to choose of them. The other problem is with the exams, that pupils maybe choose one that who not is for this pupil, and the exam will not very completed in good way for those as where those schoolboy or schoolgirl expectations. So the other that a lot of many states already in the second concentr, so in basic school, made prepare school children for pure courses. that they know, those students know possibilities of them, what to choose better for, what would pass better for them. Another challenge is related with professional skills, what professional skills to choose. And what is very difficult in our country, as was said in my group, about advanced level, because advanced level is only for few pupils, and not all schools have very strong, how to say, very good specialists, and maybe that distance learning will help to
yes, they can bring a group together virtually,
and change situation. So in these levels, what level to choose to learn was discussed in our group, and it was said that there were some levels advanced in history of education in Lithuania, but because of very little group of students have chosen them, they not survived. So left only basic and mandatory levels. So it's some of group persons knows that advanced level used in a lot of countries, of Western countries, when the student have to choose very specific branch of learning, studies, sorry. But today we are not prepared for this system. That's all I think about levels. And the other mind about levels is that if we make classes from basic, intermediate level and advanced level, it's not very good, because basic and intermediate levels classes go down. They are not, they not reach so much in result as advanced level classes. About teachers' work, if teachers are very motivated, they are prepared very well, so we have to, it's possible to have very good teacher or some person who knows subject very well. But if students don't have a very good motivation for to learn, to get knowledge, so we have to have very good specialist, very good pedagogical background.
It needs a different type of professional learning. We're going to have to move. Andreas, can you move to the next question?
Yes, so it was said that we only pure subject have to learn only professionals, and so also it was good that would be such specialized schools as Photonas for physical, formal or non-formal school, young pedagogical school for preparing for studies in university. That's all, more or less.
Okay, thank you. Can you just stop sharing now?
Yes,
thank you.
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you, Andres. Let's move to group one. Is that you, Ramantis?
It's me. And talking about the content of upper secondary education, we are sure that we need to analyze experience of neighboring countries, let's say Latvia, Estonia, Poland, Germany, and these differences are sometimes huge. Let's say one of our colleagues had experience when a good student in biology was not allowed to study in Germany medicine. It's the level was not sufficient, and she should take as, let's say, transitional year to study in Germany
to lift her results. Yeah.
Yes, that's why changing the content of upper secondary education, we need to make this analysis.
Yeah, the benchmarking is important. Yeah.
Yes, diversity of students in Lithuania taking upper secondary education is very huge, and as you may know, we don't have this transition year, and students very weak, and even in math, in Lithuanian language, they are free to choose upper secondary education, and it makes problems for them and for schools, and but it's such is the reality. And we discussed possible levels of different subjects, and we all agreed that subjects should have different levels, so-called basic and advanced, but some of us believe that this should be only for core subjects, mandatory subjects, and if subjects are not mandatory, only to choose, then could be only at advanced level.
Yeah.
Yes, and the last questions was about teachers from outside, and everybody from our group agreed that we could start from teachers from outside for models, for different models supporting these main subjects.
Yeah. Like Loretta mentioned, look for some other systems, ways of engaging those from other workforces. Yeah. Okay, we're up to, who was in place of, for group 6? Who was speaking on behalf of group 6? Is that you, Birta?
Group 6 was Irene, but she has left, so now I'm responsible for speaking. So we had a really great discussion, and first of all, it was silence for a while, because, you know, to go deep into things, we had to find where we are first. So talking about questions step by step. So the first, benchmarking. We talked that we have to take into consideration the historical point of view and to compare our education system, first of all, with the Baltic states, because we have very similar lifestyles and things close to us. But talking about programs, we should consider international level, and here we came again back to baccalaureate and the good things it has, and that it was an international program which is suited not only for one specific country but for more than one. But thinking about your presentations, we remember the first day. And our group is very close to New Zealand model, because we are talking later, you'll see why. Okay, diversity thing made lots of discussion again, lots of thinking and disagreements, but we decided that we have to have clear clear seeing what paths we could offer our students. Now we do have some diversities, but we would like to have like 3 different paths students could choose according to their level of you know, knowledge and skills and so on and so on. So clear, you know, paths for future education. The third question, talking about levels. So after first part discussion in today, we agreed that we are for the choice where we have 3 main subjects, which like 3 core subjects, which as the core subject should have different levels, so that students, all students had a possibility to get secondary education. Then 2 subjects we can choose, but they would be like mandatory. You have to choose them, but you can choose from different areas. So 3 core with different subjects with different levels, and 2 mandatory choice subjects, again with different levels, because they are they are must to choose. Then the rest of the subjects which would like form students' kind of portfolio or their, you know, secondary education, would be different subjects they choose in different areas, and they shouldn't have any levels. These could be we call them three of choice, 3 subjects, yeah, with no levels, which can have like for example, for we talk like IT subject. If we take IT, IT subject could have like programming, usage, robotics, and different sides to form one clear, you know, like credit or something mark. And about professions, here we were talking about the future and the very unrealistic future. But we again remembered your presentations about microcredits, about you know, credits we can get from other institutions, other yes. Yeah. So there was an idea that in this like for everybody to have possibility to choose you know, very different subjects, we could like take some subjects in different schools, like in a capital city, you can choose the subject which your school does not offer, but you can take it in somewhere in other school or even university, or I don't know, in business. And we also, like Loretta's group, I think, mentioned, talked about the projects where the ones like I choose to teach, where some professions come to school. But here we see like distance learning in different schools, which we already learned in this pandemic situation, could be kind of a choice where we can get different subjects all over the country. So
brilliant. Thank you, Beta. I noticed there's a comment there from Asta about motivating students by bringing in people from other fields who can talk about how they, even in their career, how particular things they learned at school and outside of school help them. Sometimes learning can be boring, but sometimes you have to endure this to enjoy the other matters. So it's again, using the broader ecosystem to enhance education. Thanks, Esther. Esther, thanks for that comment, and thank you, Beata. Okay, we're up to group 5.
Turbūt jau ir pasikartosim kai kur, bet mes savo šalies švietimą norėtume nukopijuoti iš tų šalių, kurios yra mums kultūriškai, istoriškai, socialinė savo ir ekonominė situacija yra artimos, tačiau mums yra labai svarbu, kad būtų mums ir ta programų įgyvendinimo sistema vedanti prie gerų mokinių pasiekimo rezultatų.
So I will try to translate as precise as I can. So maybe we will complement the others who already talked, but we were talking about more about criteria, how we could choose the countries. So we would like to go for countries who are more similar to our country in terms of socio-economical and cultural environment, but also the countries who demonstrate also higher achievements, and we can use these countries as examples.
Antruoju klausimu. Vidurinis ugdymas, aišku, visiems mokiniams ir tai apibrėžia bendrosios programos, tačiau jos yra tik kelrodis tiems pedagogams, kurie įgyvendina jas, pritaikydamos savo mokiniams. Va čia ir turime mes problemą, kad yra pačių bendrųjų programų įgyvendinimas ir konkrečiai pritaikymas įvairių poreikių mokiniams yra sudėtingas, problematiškas.
Our general curriculum is more like a guidelines for all students, and we think that there are guidelines also for diverse students also. But the other thing is implementation, and when it comes to implementation, when the teacher have to make their decisions how to implement and regarding the students that they have, we see the problems. So maybe, yes, we have also to review our programs that we think that they are quite, that they are oriented to diverse students, but maybe not so much.
Yeah, the curriculum allows for that diversity and differentiation, but it's up to the teaching to practice that, to know how to do that. Yeah, thank you.
Kiekvienam privalomam dalykui ar brandolio dalykui mes siūlytume ne mažiau kaip 2 lygių.
For every core subject, we are thinking that there should be no less than 2 levels.
Dėl laisvai pasirenkamų dalykų grupėje buvo įvairių nuomonių. Galėtų būti tų lygių daugiau, tiek į plotį, tiek į gylį, nes tai rinktųsi laisvai patys mokiniai.
And when we are talking for the subjects that students can choose, we had some opinions, different opinions. One way is that we could have more programs, but just with one level, and students can choose from wider number of courses. But the other perspective is that student can choose one or several subjects and go more deep into this. So we need more levels of these programs.
Yeah, so yes, it's one or the other option. Yeah, I can understand. Yes, you have to at some point make a decision. Is it deeper learning or is it variety that you're interested in and choice? Yeah.
Ketvirtuoju klausimu grupėje buvo pasiūlymų, kad galėtų dirbti ir mokslininkai, ir politikai. Norėtume akcentuoti, kad vis dėlto, jeigu ateina dirbti su mokiniais, tai ateinantis turėtų turėti kompetenciją šitam dalykui ir atsakomybę, kad sudarytų sąlygas mokiniams pasiekti tų rezultatų, kurie yra apibrėžti būtent tame dalyke.
Regarding fourth question, we think that there are quite a wide number of professions whose people from these professions could come to the school as professionals in their field. And but the most important thing that they have to have some competences and they have to be competent and to lead to and to teach students that they should acquire some achievements that are written in our curriculum. But also we talked, maybe I will complement a little bit, that there are two ways. Are we talking about the permanent job as a teacher, or some situational, for example, for just one or another lesson and theme or some object? So these are quite two different, could be perceptions. So
yes, that's right. Identifying who are the skilled people who can complement what our teachers are doing, add to, enhance what they're doing, or are we talking about recruiting people from other industries into teaching? Yeah, you might want to do both. You might want to think about both, but both involve different workforce planning and training. Yeah, that's very important. Thank you.
Aš atsiprašau, dar kažką praleidau. Atsiprašau, papildykite, Gitana, kažką nepasakiau esminio.
Thank you, Albina and Ikile.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rima, is it you, the last? Yeah, so the pressure is on you because we're just about out of time. So how tight can you make it? How brief, clear, and concise?
A lot was said and not much is left, so I will be very short, I think. At the beginning of our discussion, I felt like on Eurovision contest stage, you know, and the points from fourth group go to, so 2 points for Finland, 1 point to Ireland, and 1 point for France. But to be more serious, we chose Finland for its broad choice of short modules. We chose France for its assessment system, when a child has to complete successfully several stages before going to the final exam. And we chose Ireland for its successful experience in career education. We talked about Singapore, but we didn't choose it. They achieve a very high results in sciences, in academic sphere, but emotional sphere is very, very, very lacking. So we have good school conception in Lithuania, and the mission of school is defined as high results through pleasant, meaningful experiences. So only high results are not enough for Lithuania. Going to the second question, almost everything was said, and we concentrated on 2 groups in the secondary education cohort. That was students who study at general education and vocational training, where they acquire secondary education. And they are not captured equally, because at vocational training institutions, the quality of education, of teaching is not enough. Going to the third question, we agreed that levels should be for core subjects, and for those elective should not be. And go to the last one. Almost everything was said. We had a practitioner, a school leader in our group, and she said that it's a practice in their school that they sign an agreement with particular people who come for short modules to school to teach children. For example, bankers for economics, public health specialists for health and safety, who else? Lawyers for law module, and so on. And we had an idea that military servants, they quit their profession quite early. And there was an idea in Lithuania that they should have a possibility to take requalification studies, and they could come to school to teach. That's all from our group.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rima. You got a thumbs up from, claps from Natalia there. So that's a good sign. I know Natalia's a very hard marker, so that's good. Look, everyone, thank you so much. That was fabulous. Some commonalities there, some differences of opinion, and that's what we wanted to raise from today. We're drawing together a whole lot of things. When we come back tomorrow for our last day, as we said, we're going to start with a student speaking to us about giving their perspectives on the secondary education. We're going to look at assessment and some of the issues related to formative assessment and summative assessment, aligning those, and also making sure that we get, we look at consistency in the judgments that teachers make, how to do that. And then we're going to finish with really trying to wrap this all together to identify what are the key messages that we take from these 4 days. Thank you for another fabulous day. You've all worked very hard. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you have too. So all the best and have a good time overnight. I know you're all in lockdown, isolation. I hope you're making the most of what you can from that. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I can let you know I've just started to hear the thunder outside, so it's probably a good time for me to go as well before it starts. The lightning starts coming. All the best, everyone.